звернувшись до учасників та учасниць Рамштайну, сказав, що ті, хто
Free the Leopards! Free the Leopards! Free the Leopards! Free the Leopards! Free the Leopards!
Schande! 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 Schande!
Героям слава! Смерть ворогам!
Das ist immer noch zu früh.
It is too early for the Chancellor to send the leopards, the tanks, to Ukraine, to Dnipro.
Ukraine zu schicken. Nach Dnipro.
Tausende Ukrainerinnen und Ukrainer wurden deportiert, darunter tausende Kinder. Dann liegt die ganze europäische Sicherheit in Trümmern.
Ja, ich demonstriere hier, weil ich
Yes, I'm demonstrating here because I'm disappointed that Ukraine is still not getting the weapons they need to win this war, to end this terrible war. And I think that they need more tanks. I never would have thought it is possible that I would ever protest for tanks. I was a Buddhist, actually I still am, but yes, Ukraine needs to be able to defend itself.
gehalten, dass ich mich mal mit Panzern beschäftige. Ich war Buddhistin oder bin es eigentlich noch. Aber ja, die Ukraine muss sich verteidigen können.
Wie ein europäisches Land, das für seine Freiheit und für die europäischen Werte von Demokratie kämpft, die Kriegsverbrechen in der Ukraine zur Rechenschaft gezogen werden. Deshalb Leopard jetzt, Slava Ukraini!
Майже тиждень тому було вбито дітей, батьків, тих, хто кожна muss sich Ukraine verteidigen. Soldaten und Soldatinnen. Leopardenlieferung für die Ukraine. Leopardenlieferung für die Ukraine.
Für die Ukraine! Leopardenlieferung für die Ukraine!
And security does not fall solely on the shoulders of those in uniform.
Whether the pressure on Germany is mounting or not is not something that I'm involved in. That is a political discussion between Germany and the nations that are willing to give away their leopards. So I'm not going to say whether Germany should do that. That is a sovereign decision by a sovereign state, which is Germany.
As well as future threats. Together, the chiefs of defense.
Giving away stuff now costs money, will lead to taking a certain risk. But the costs for all of us will be much, much higher if Russia wins the war in Ukraine.
And that our rapid deployable forces will be able to perform.
We have to be careful. We have to continue helping Ukraine. And we have to take the Russians serious. But if they say that it will not make any difference if there is Western tanks with the Ukrainians, then I have to smile. Because Western technology so far has shown to be superior to the Russian technology.
The past 5 years, which correspond to my tenure.
Okay, here we go. Good luck.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here today. It's my pleasure to introduce Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin III.
I think Idris asked me earlier if Germany was a leader. Was that the right question there, Idris?
How can you see them
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. They are a reliable ally, and they've been that way for a very, very long time, and I truly believe that they'll continue to be a reliable ally going forward. Not to mention, they have, Germany is host to 39,000 of my troops and their families, and also 10,000 civilians here. And so we've had a great relationship throughout over the years, and their fellow citizens.
Those questions and call on journalists and would ask that we limit follow-ups due to our time schedule.
As Russia's cruelty deepens, the resolve of this contact group grows. And that's clear from the announcements that we've heard today. Challenger 2 tanks for Ukraine. This is the first introduction of Western main battle tanks. This is a decisive decade for the world. And this is a decisive moment for Ukraine's struggle to defend itself. So this contact group will not slow down. We're going to continue to dig deep, and based upon the progress that we've made today, I'm confident that Ukraine's partners from around the globe are determined to meet this moment. The United States remains committed to leading in this coordinated effort. A decade for the world. And this is a decisive moment for Ukraine's struggle to defend itself.
And there's significant fighting ongoing, and it's more or less a static front line right this minute, with the exception of Bakhmut and Soledar, where there's significant offensive action going on really from both sides. The distance, that for the United States, that's about from, I guess, Washington, D.C. to Atlanta. So that is a significant amount of territory. And in that territory are still remaining a lot of Russian forces in Russian-occupied Ukraine. So from a military standpoint, I still maintain that for this year, it would be very, very difficult to militarily eject the Russian forces from every inch of Ukrainian-occupied or Russian-occupied Ukraine.
To leading in this coordinated effort. And this morning, I was pleased to needed 155 millimeter howitzers and munitions. We also focused hard on how our collective and individual training efforts. I think you may have heard the German Minister of Defense say earlier that they've not made a decision on the provision of Leopard tanks. What we're really focused on is making sure that Ukraine has the capability that it needs to be successful right now. So we have a window of opportunity here, between now and the spring when whenever they commence their operation, their counteroffensive. And that's not a long time. And we have to pull together the right capabilities. And it helps Ukraine meet its air defense needs with additional NASAMS units.
Eventually, President Putin, Russia, will realize the full extent of their strategic miscalculation. But until Putin ends this war, his war of choice, the nations of this contact group will continue to support the defense of Ukraine in order to uphold the rules-based international order. A special thank you also to the Ukrainian Minister of Defense.
And we'll continue to work toward a free and secure.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have available today. Mr. Secretary, General Gentlemen, this concludes our press briefing. Thank you.
Ukraine's Western allies are announcing billions of dollars of new aid and equipment for Kiev. A major summit of the powers at Ramstein Air Base in Germany on Friday has failed to bring a much-anticipated decision on whether to donate German-built tanks to the war effort. And Germany's government is denying that it's blocking such a move. This is near Bakhmut in Ukraine on the same day. It's where one of the war's most grinding battles has been waging for months, and where Reuters met Victor, a Ukrainian soldier. Asked about the summit, he tells us, look, our military hardware dates back to the 1960s, while theirs, meaning the Russians, dates back to the 1980s. So the introduction of more modern armor makes a real difference, he says, and compares their Soviet-era machines to coffins. This was Germany's new defense minister, Boris Pistorius, at the Ramstein summit, and Ukraine's President Zelensky calling in remotely.
We don't fear anything. We have just responsibility for our population in Germany and in Europe. And we have to balance all the pros and cons before we decide things like that, just like that. This is nothing else. And I'm very sure that there will be a decision in the short term, but I don't know why, and I don't know how the decision will look.
You can start this policy today. It is in your power to make a Ramstein of tanks, not to bargain about different numbers of tanks, but to open a principled supply.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin urging allies to dig deeper.
Russia is regrouping, recruiting, and trying to re-equip. This is not a moment to slow down.
At question is a German-built tank called the Leopard 2, which is operated by several European countries and highly coveted by Ukraine. It's considered one of the best out there. For example, analysts have told Reuters that, compared to the American Abrams, its counterpart, the Leopard's fuel consumption is far more economic, which makes it better suited to the realities of Ukraine's battlefield supply lines. Germany's government says it's ready to move quickly on delivery of the vehicles, but that it needs consensus among the allies. It's not clear where the discord is, though. Several countries have said they're waiting for Germany to lift its veto power on exporting the vehicle. Berlin is also cautious about further provoking Russia into a direct conflict with NATO. The only Western country supplying tanks to Ukraine right now is the UK, 14 of them, although many have donated artillery, armored personnel carriers, and other vehicles. Meanwhile, back in Bakhmut, Victor the soldier says the introduction of more Western tanks would give troops a major morale boost. When they enter the battlefield, the Russians look at us like we're kamikaze fighters, he says, because we may not come back. A report in Germany's Der Spiegel newspaper Friday said that German intelligence believes Ukraine is taking losses near Bakhmut in the triple digits every day, that Berlin is alarmed at the casualty rate, and that Russian forces there are being used like cannon fodder.